Well, we're live and there's nobody here. But then again, with a channel as small as ours, I wouldn't expect it. So we'll sit here and we'll see who joins. And then in the end, if we come up with a decent live stream, we will we'll edit it and put it out. Let me see what this actually looks like. It's live. I guess we'll see. Good morning. It is 3:30 in the morning here in Angeles. And, well, here I am. And it's an interesting, I have a lot of information depending on which topic this wants to go or which direction it wants to go in. But welcome to our Philippine journey. We appreciate you stopping by, that's for sure. And I can tell we have one person watching. Ta-da, you're the star. Go ahead and say hello, and we'll see what the lag is like. Keep in mind that you are about a minute and a half behind me. So whatever you put in the comment section is going to be a little bit behind me. Give me time to get to it, but feel free to introduce yourself. It's an absolutely... you know what? I've spent the past couple of days, Orlin and I spent the past couple of days actually looking at different videos and talking about, from New York. Good morning, James. How are you? We, let's see, boom, there we go. And let me move that and get it out of the way. There we go. Keep in mind, we're behind you about a minute and a half lag because of YouTube. So we'll see how that goes. But we have, good morning, Ricky. Yeah, Nebraska. Is it cold in Nebraska yet? You guys getting any snow? I heard they're predicting some snow out in the States, maybe even a white Christmas in some areas. It's something I do kind of miss, to be honest with you. But to get back to what we were saying, Arlen and I spent the past couple of days looking at videos and different live streams that have come out and the drama that's unfolding. And we're not going to add to the drama, but we are going to try and, good morning, Bjorn. We're going to try and add some context to what's going on. And we're going to try and clarify a couple of things. And for those of you that are on your way, will be coming, have been here, plan on trying to come here. Ricky's got snow already. Wow. As we try and get to that. So I think it's important that people recognize the difference between myths and reality when it comes to relationships in the Philippines. But more importantly than that, I think it's good for people to recognize, and I don't say this in a negative fashion. I love the Philippines. I love the Philippine people. I love the culture. But that is part of the issue. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. But that is part of the issue. And the issue is all of this stuff that's going on about what's expected of you as a boyfriend or what's expected of you in different situations. So I thought that it'd be interesting. I mean, my wife and I spoke about it at length. And then, of course, we've got our own history. So let me give you a little bit about my history so that you can understand where we're coming from. I was raised as a child in Asia. Specifically, I was raised in Tokyo and Hong Kong. I did not get to the States on a full-time basis until I was 13 years old. I was a Gaijin, a round eye. Okay? So you can't call me racist because I've been there and done that. With that being said, let's talk about the difference in relationships. You know, you've got dating, you've got a relationship, and then you've got marriage or partnered up somehow. And recently, I was watching a live stream, and they had a female blogger on there. And they were doing a reaction to her comments, her blog, actually. And her blog says that, you know, traditionally, this is what you should expect. You should expect, because in our culture, this is the way it is, you, the foreigner, are expected. It's our tradition that you are expected to do XYZ. All right, well, let's clarify things because, you know, the devil is in the details here. And the details are quite simple. First off, the tradition that she is speaking of in this particular instance was the tradition of you providing a party, support, introductions, all of these types of things. Well, Filipinos don't do that. Okay? When you bring the Filipino boyfriend home to visit the family, he's not expected to take out 50 of your relatives and neighbors. That's not a Filipino tradition. In fact, what they describe it now as is the foreign boyfriend tradition. Well, let's talk about that for a second because I think it's kind of interesting, don't you? Let's talk about tradition and culture, okay? What is it defined as tradition? Tradition is something that has become accepted over 3 generations. 3 generations is the social accepted definition of something becoming a tradition. All right, 3 generations. A generation is defined as being between 20 and 25 years, from child to adult to having your own grown child or to having your own child. So that's a generation. Well, if you go back 3 generations, the beginning of this boyfriend supporting the entire family bullshit has not been around that long. This is a myth. This is an absolute myth. And I think what happens is you hear this because 2 things happen. The first one is that most foreigners, even if they're living in a lower socioeconomic bracket, are living higher, their standard is higher than local Filipinos. And because their standard is higher, they spend more. They're seen as being more generous. The second reason that this happens is because it's perpetuated by people who want to raise that bar. I see we have 10 people online. Don't feel like you can't comment, interject anytime. So to say that something is a tradition when it hasn't existed for 3 generations is against the actual definition. It doesn't even meet it. You go back 3 generations, we just got out of World War II. And then you multiply that, or you factor in communications. The Philippines is 3 sets of islands. You've got Luzon, you've got Visayas, and you've got Mindanao. It's only been in the past 10 years that communication, social communication, has become reasonably adept. All right. Generally through Facebook Messenger, to be honest with you, or through Facebook, where people communicate on a routine basis other than writing a letter or once in a while a phone call if somebody happens to have a phone. I mean, 15 years ago, you might have one phone for 4 families. So, this has spread very, very rapidly in the past 10 years. It's not a tradition for Filipinos to bring the boyfriend to meet the family. It just isn't. And turn around. Let me rephrase that. It's not a tradition for Filipinos to bring boyfriends around and the boyfriend treats the entire family and takes care of them and everything else. But let's back it up just a bit. Let's talk more about the fact that, does he do this when he's dating somebody? Does he do it when he's involved in a relationship? Okay, because to me, there's a difference between dating and in a relationship. What does that happen? So, James says that my Filipino of over 30 years hardly sent any money home. And I agree, you're making an excellent. Well, thank you, James. It's funny. My wife doesn't send much money home. In fact, I have to encourage her to check and make sure that they're doing okay. My wife's family takes care of themselves. My wife's father still to this day works. He's a rice farmer and a fisherman. He's up at 4 o'clock every morning. I know because I'm up at 4 o'clock every morning when I'm there, and I see him leaving. And he goes to the lake and starts fishing, checking his fish traps. My wife's sister is married and a homemaker, but her husband works and he has a full-time job. All right. So, and my wife's brother has a full-time job, and my wife's other sister has a full-time job. Okay. This tradition of not being able to take care of yourselves is a myth. All right. It's an absolute myth. Good morning. Oh my God. Yes, indeed. Clubhouse Asia. Guys, I got to tell you, this guy is the shit. I don't know what it is about what he does to make his video and to make his audio, but it sounds like you're in a seductive movie listening to this guy talk. So great. You got to really watch his channel. He's a good guy. He's a really, really good guy. Got his head on more straight than me, to be honest, if I had to make a guess. But anyways, what I was saying is that Filipinos, this is not a tradition. A tradition, classically, is something that's existed for 3 generations before it becomes a tradition. A generation is 20 to 25 years. Foreign boyfriends were so far and between 25 years ago. I mean, 75 years ago, we were just getting out of World War II. Then you think about communication, that this girl in Luzon at Subic met a foreigner and he showered her this way with all these gifts. Well, 75 years ago, she would have had to written a letter pretty much to her tita and told her tita about it, and the tita would have had to have said something to the rest of the village. That's not a tradition. You get a Filipino boyfriend comes home for the weekend to meet the Filipino girlfriend's family, and they're not treating 50 people to dinner. Now, let's back up a second and let's redefine a couple things that are important here. And that would be, number one, we're talking about boyfriends, and we're not talking about husbands. And husbands are, I think, a little different. I really and truly do. Do we, Mike and Arlen, do we participate in overindulgence with our Filipino family? Yeah, you bet we do. Okay? We absolutely do. We can financially afford it, and it makes me feel good to see my little nieces and nephews try different foods. It makes me feel good that they have new clothes. It makes me feel good to watch my wife's father not have to work quite so damn hard. I mean, my wife's father raised 4 children. One passed away. All right. But it makes me feel good. Does that mean that they get these huge endowments from us? No, not by any way, shape, or means. That's not. Do we invite them to dinner? Often. Absolutely often. And if Arlen is running into Butuan or Surigao City to pick stuff up that needs to be picked up there, will she pack a few of them into the van and take them? You bet. And Arlen will treat them to lunch or whatever. Do we put 50 people in 3 different vans, take them to the beach, and foot the bill for the entire excursion? Yeah, once in a while we've done that. Not often, but once in a while. But that's not a dating situation. That's not the myth of being the boyfriend. So what happens in the blogs that I've seen lately and the videos that we've seen lately is these issues of what's expected out of you when you're dating a girl. And call me a little bit old-fashioned. I still have a problem with the term dating in modern society. I don't consider a long-distance internet relationship to be dating. I really and truly don't. I don't consider somebody that you met online and you've only spoken to and you've never come to the country and you've never met that person to be a girlfriend. I mean, there are terms of endearment, sure. But are they a girlfriend? Are you dating? Well, how can you be dating if you've never met each other and you live 8,000 miles away? But you're still sending her money. This is difficult. Do you want to send her money to make her life a little bit better? Maybe. Is she so impoverished that you have to send her money? Are you trying to control her with your money? That's another topic that's totally different, but either way. The myth of the boyfriend supporting the Filipino family is bullshit. It shouldn't be around. Should you come to a point in time where you agree to treating them once in a while, no big deal if you can afford it. When it comes to the point that the girl tells you, if you're going to have a relationship with me, this is one of the things that has to take place, then you should have a very clear conversation with that young lady. Okay? You should say, look, this is what I think is fair and right. And don't compromise on what you think. Don't let your emotions drive rational thoughts. It's difficult to do that. It puts you in a very bad spot. I can tell you, it was not my wife's idea to build a house in the province. It was my idea. It was not my wife's idea to buy property in the province. It was my idea. All right? It was not my wife's idea to do a lot of the things that we do. It's my idea. All right? If her family lived near us and in a city that's of decent size, would we take them all out to dinner? Sure. We would take them all out to dinner every now and then. But when I say all, when I say all, I don't mean every cousin, aunt, and nephew. I mean mom, dad, siblings. Clubhouse Asia, Mike is 100% right. When you're married, it's really not expected in good families. But as a husband, that means it's okay. I have a camera sitting right in front of you, so I need to really move my windows around here. But to the little joys you have when dating, it's a different story. Absolutely, it is a different story. And the problem is this myth keeps getting perpetuated. I mean, this blog that I saw the other day, quite frankly, the girl is telling her viewers, and she has crap loads of viewers. I mean, I'm talking about tens of thousands. She might even be over 100,000. I don't know. I can't remember. I don't think she's 100,000, but she has a crap load of viewers. And she's telling these guys that it's expected, it's tradition, that when you date a Filipino, you date the family. When you marry a Filipino, you marry the family. Well, you know what? I guess maybe to a certain extent in the U.S., when you marry a girl, you marry the family, but you don't support them. And I wouldn't see or try and understand why you would support them here. On the other hand, if you're married, all right, you're not dating, but you're married, and you can share in the joys of life, there's nothing wrong with it. And so we help perpetuate this myth ourselves, all right? And now with the internet, with everything else that's been going on in the past 10 years, everybody sees this. I mean, I can tell you, if I look at my wife's Facebook feed, and I don't do Facebook at all right? But if I look, I got an itch here. If I look at my wife's Facebook feed, it's not uncommon at all, at least on a weekly basis, to see a feed, I guess is the word for it, where someone will post, oh, my boyfriend did this for me, or, whoa, my boyfriend did that for me, sent me money to do this, or sent me money to do that, and look at what I bought, and look at what I did, and you think about it for a minute, just trying to, again, put things rationally. Nobody's going to send less than $100, okay? I can't see anybody sending It's just not financially worthwhile to send less than $100. And then you look and see what it is they posted that they bought and they did, and they may have bought $15 worth of shit. Where'd the rest of that money go? So getting back to that, the difference between a boyfriend and a husband are radical. You're building a family. You're building something for your wife's future as well. For many of us, we're quite older than our spouses. Bjorn, I told the family I'm not going to support them the first time I met them. They should work like the rest of us. Yes, Bjorn. I mean, I hope you were a little bit more tactful than that. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, I didn't tell the family that. I told my wife that. She relayed it, I'm sure, in her own way. And that's the most important part. If you're dating somebody, you need to be upfront with them. I've said this many times. You need to tell them this is what I live within. Don't fall into this thing of setting a complete budget to support their family, especially if you're dating them. Some people try and take this attitude of, I am only able to be there 5 weeks out of the year. So, I'm supporting and sending money and doing this and doing that. That's a difficult situation. You want your girlfriend or level of prosperity, her standard of living, to be XYZ. And so that takes so many dollars. Well, then if you have to add to that the rest of her family, not bringing them up to the same level of the girlfriend, but bringing them up to another level, well, that adds more dollars. I just don't, I don't get it. I don't believe it. I don't see it. Like I said, when you're married and you want to share, that's great. But before you start doing that, yeah, Bjorn, everybody's got to work. I worked my ass off. Okay? I worked my ass off. I had a job from the time I was 15 years old till the day I sold my last company. Not till the day I retired, but to the day I actually sold the last company, which was only just last year. Okay? So, I worked every day. Well, not every day, but I had a full-time job. I didn't work Saturdays and Sundays all the time. But there were times when I worked, 20, 30, 40 days in a row. And that's all part of the process. However, with that being said, you have to, they work and quite frankly, they continue to work. And what we have to get past, and this is so difficult for many of us, what we have to get past is that what we consider a standard of living, an acceptable standard of living, an impoverished but acceptable standard of living, is so difficult to morally be okay with. Many of us feel that this is just not right. How can somebody live in a hut? I say a hut, that's a bad word. How can somebody live in these conditions? And I have to do something about that. Well, they've been living in those conditions, and no amount of what you do makes those conditions go away. If it's not your uncle-in-law that's living in that, it'll be your brother in-law or your grandfather, all right, your in-law. You can't cure the world's ills. You can share and do as much as you can. But this myth of supporting the girlfriend. Let's see, James, I'm a widower now. I started sending money after typhoon hit last year to my new Filipino fiance, now in over my head. Oh, James, I feel for you, man. I really and truly do. Um, we got hit by Odette really hard down in Kitcheral. The whole town was damaged significantly, and we spent money down there. Uh, but James, I wish you the best of luck with that, and I know it's difficult. It's got to be super difficult. It's how can you have such a strong emotional tie to somebody, to be engaged, to be married, and now you're in over your head financially because of their needs and desires and then their family's needs. I mean, what is it that makes you in over your head? Was it all the family needs after the typhoon? Is that one of the reasons? That'd be interesting to know. But getting back to the premise and to the basis of the entire piece here, it's you got to define the difference between a relationship and dating, and you've got to be upfront as to what you're going to do, or you're going to be feeding that machine nonstop. You'll never stop. I have friends. I have two friends. I will tell you two sides of the coin. Two different friends here. Both of them are single guys. All right. One of my buddies, really great guy, would give you the shirt off his back to help you, but he's not stupid. But he is a man whore. Okay? But what I love about this guy is he's totally upfront. He's 100% upfront with every girl. And he just tells them, you know what? I'm not looking for a relationship. I might be looking for a Tuesday, Thursday girlfriend to fill in when my Monday, Wednesday girlfriend isn't around. Straight up. I have another friend. He is very, very popular. And he has now, for the first time since COVID, all right, a girlfriend. But up until now, he had 5 or 6 girlfriends. And he would literally have to juggle each one based on which bars he was going to on what days. Now, he doesn't have to do that anymore. But he was supporting all of those girlfriends. Whereas man whore, simply stated, it was a business transaction. Lover boy supporting 5 girls. And on occasion, when I say support, we're talking about buying them scooters, dental appointments, money for the family, the sick pig, new chickens, whatever. Now, he never got in over his head. All right? But you see where I'm going with that. You see how I'm saying you've got to define where that relation is and what it's doing. You really do. I don't know. Tell me, what do you think? Do you think that you should be supporting your girlfriend's family? And if you do, should you be supporting them let me see what happens here. James, How much money, Clubhouse Asia would like to know, how much money are you sending? You know, how much money how deep in the hole are you? That'd be interesting. It's not financial. Let's figure this out. It's not financial, it's emotional, James says. Starting to get paranoid about the relationship. I have become an ATM. Okay. Yeah. I think, James, is what you're saying is you're starting to get worried that it's more about the fact that you do send money, not the money itself, not the amount of money, but is it more about the fact that you are now becoming a send money upon request type situation? Is it an issue where they ask for money and it feels like it's a little excessive? That, and I can understand what you mean, James. I can sit there and say, yeah, I've got the money. I could support a lot of people. Okay, not living like I live, but I could raise their living of their standard of living considerably. But I don't think that's a solution. All right, would we raise the standard of their health care in an emergency? You bet. You absolutely bet. We had a family member who had a tough pregnancy and actually during delivery hemorrhaged and had to get money for transfusions. And we actually had to buy that blood. This is not an issue of it's available and we'll bill you for it. Okay. We've had an issue where one of our family members had tuberculosis of the bone. And we paid for the surgery. But that was a very, very close relative. I'm not going to go into the details. Very, very, very close relative. So everything, there are enough circumstances throughout the course of a relationship that are true that you don't need to add to that a narrative of subsistence. I guess maybe one of, and I've almost said this a couple of times, but I'm so hesitant to say it. I see so many of these blogs, okay? And these guys talk about leveling up your girlfriend. You need to level up that girlfriend material. You need to date and find girlfriends that are better. All right. And to a certain extent, that's partially true. And I don't like to say it. I really, truly don't, because there are so many great, wonderful, impoverished Filipino women, all right, that would be great soulmates. They really and truly are, who are living in an impoverished area. You don't have to date somebody who's a registered nurse. Sure, it's nice. Would you like to date someone that is capable of providing for your needs? Yes. But let's discuss that for a second. What are your needs? Your needs aren't just in the bedroom. Okay? You need to be able to intellectually converse and interact with whoever it is you're dating. Is that leveling up? You may need a more educated person to do that. It's possible. But I know I've met many province girls that are damn smart. They just haven't had opportunities. I've met and seen many that are gold digging bitches. And I've met and seen many that are just great human beings. Isn't that the same way it is in the U.S.? I mean, really, isn't it the same thing in the U.S.? Aren't there good people and bad people? Aren't there inherently lazy people and hardworking people? I mean, we see it all the time in the U.S. Have you ever been to Appalachia in the U.S.? Appalachia is a section of the mountainous section in a very rural area. There are still certain segments of Appalachia in the U.S. where the average educational level is about ninth grade. And some of those people, they'll take advantage of you in a heartbeat. And some of those people will be the first people that pull over on the side of the road to help you fix your car. It's the same no matter where you're at. Don't make poor choices here. Don't fall into the myth, the boyfriend myth. That's what you got to stay away from. Don't fall into the boyfriend myth. I mean, we could do a whole different segment on being a husband, but don't fall into that boyfriend myth where you become an ATM. You just don't. All right? If they can't get along without your money supporting their family, you've got a problem. Okay? It's a difficult situation. It's funny. We know people, I'll just be honest. We know bar girls who come from impoverished situations. And some of them are really sweet, good girls. And some of them, it'll cost you an arm and a leg before the time you untangle yourself from them. So, I mean, it doesn't change. What are your thoughts? What do you think? How do you feel? I mean, is anybody here actually supporting, other than James, is anybody here supporting? I'd like to know if you're supporting a Filipino. And if you're supporting that Filipino, have you met them? Have you actually met them? Banjos. Yeah, they can play the banjo up there. We used to drive up there when I lived in North Carolina. We used to drive up into the Appalachia areas every, once a year or so, just to buy moonshine. So it was you got to, what's that old saying? What's that Burt Reynolds movie, Deliverance? You got a pretty mouth, boy. It's a whole different world up there sometimes. But really, it would be interesting to know who actually supports or has in the past been in a relationship where they're supporting somebody that they've never met. Who's been, who has plans to come to the U.S., to come to the Philippines and meet their long-distance relationship and family? And Bjorn says, no, we never. We only send it Christmas presents. Yeah. If you don't know who the sucker in the room is, you're probably it. I guess, there's no denying that. That's for sure. It is a different thing, but when it all, churns itself out, what's it come down to? How does it change? What's it do? Where do you draw the line? I'm going to say this again. Foreigners supporting Filipino families is not a Filipino tradition. Okay? It's not. That is a myth. And the reason I say it's a myth is because it hasn't been around long enough to be real. Okay? To be a tradition. A tradition is something that's been around for 3 generations. Period. And it hasn't been around long enough to do that. I'm not saying that quite a few foreigners don't do it, but the foreigner coming to the Philippines and meeting his long distance relationship for the first time and taking 40 members of her family to the beach for a lechon, or whatever. That's not standard. You don't see Filipino men doing that. Why would you see foreign men doing that? Bjorn says it's just para hunters who's asking for para. Yeah. It's quite possible. That's for sure. I mean, I don't knock anybody for trying. I think that you have to understand that when you're hungry, I'm sure all of you understand that when you're hungry, you will push forward as hard as you can to fill your belly. When your child is hungry, you will push even further ahead. When your family is hungry, you're going to push. And that's what happens. Okay? You're going to have people like that, and they're going to be in that situation. And that's just the way it is. It's not going to be something that's going to go away. And I don't behoove any of these women for perpetuating this myth. I don't blame them for saying this is the way it is. I don't tell you that, like I said, I just don't blame them. It is simply, Bjorn, can you explain what para? Walang para. Yes. Dan, welcome. You can't blame the girls for this, okay? You can't. And that's fine. They're doing something to exist. But I can say you can blame the guys for accepting it. You can blame the guys for believing in it. Okay? You can blame the guys for buying into it. So if you have people that are going to say it when it's true, all right? If you're going to have people, Bjorn says, para is money. And yes, it is. My Tagalog is not great. But if you have somebody that is used to doing it because they're hungry, they'll continue to do it. And then human nature is, unfortunately, while there are those people that are exceptions to the rules, human nature is to do the least to make the most. Okay? And I don't say that in a greedy way. I mean, you're talking about the difference between the invention of the assembly line for manufacturing. That's doing the least to make the most. It's efficiency. Well, if it's efficient for a girl to sit there and ask for money, and it works because guys are sending it, well, what makes you think they're going to stop? I am certain they would continue. It will not end, to the best of my knowledge. I guess that's just a personal opinion. But buying into that myth, that's bullshit. That's real bullshit. claiming that your long distance relationship online is a girlfriend, in my opinion, you know, you don't have to agree. It's only my opinion, but that's bullshit. How can you have a girlfriend if you have never met them in person? All right. I guess you can say technology has replaced the need to meet them in person. I don't believe so. Okay. I really and truly don't. Supporting an entire family carte blanche is bullshit. My wife's family is not well off at all. And they feed themselves and clothe themselves and get their kids to school every day. Every day. And Bjorn says, as long as guys sending them money, they never gone. Well, you know, Bjorn, like I said, doing the least to make the most. I can remember, well, I don't even have to remember. It still exists. Okay? There are girls on dating sites who consider that dating site their full-time job. They're on there 6, 8, 10 hours a day. Hustling guys. It's their job. And guys, obviously, keep paying. Otherwise, they would have stopped by now. Another good point. I can't hug my laptop. Yeah, James, it's difficult for your laptop to help you make dinner, or I guess you can take your laptop to dinner at a nice restaurant, but the conversation is going to be a bit limited. Look, I mean, you know, maybe it's because of my age. Maybe my age sits there and says relationships have to be developed in person. I mean, there's nothing wrong with meeting a girl on a website, on a dating app, anything like that. But if you're going to want to continue down that path, you got to meet them in person. And that's a good way to figure out whether you need to come here or not. Because if you can't justify the financial outlay to come meet your girlfriend in person, doesn't that kind of sit there and say, shit? I mean, that's kind of like saying I can't afford to date. I have a girlfriend in the Philippines I've never met. And one day I'm hoping to have enough money to get over there and meet her. I'll be able to stay for about 2 weeks. Okay? But then I got to go home. And then what? It's another year before you see her again? Yeah, it's strangers. They have money to buy load, to be on the internet 24 hours, but no job. Yeah, it's interesting. Bjorn, you're absolutely correct. So, but that being said, that's the way things are. Is there any other topic that you guys would like to discuss? We don't have to stick with this, and I'm just drinking coffee, wasting time. We have a event we have to go to today, and but this will get us get me through the morning. But feel free to say something in the comments if you'd like to talk about something else. That's for sure. I'd be happy to do so. I'm using this program. I'm still learning how to use it. Ecamm. Yes, I passed on all. All movie stars look-alikes on the dating sites. Yeah, James. Bourne says, I've been around there since 1978, so I know all the stories they're making. Well, there you go. Bourne, you've been here a long time. 78 predates me for sure. It absolutely predates me by a long ways. Okay? That's a long time. There are a million stories, but Bjorn, that's interesting though. I mean, in 78, you didn't have the internet like now. I mean, how did people communicate with family and friends in the late 70s, early 80s? How prevalent was that communication? How did they cope with that? How did they do it? That'd be interesting. SRRV, Dan, SRRV is simple. So there are a couple of, excuse me, there are a couple of different kinds of SRRVs. I don't know each individual kind, okay? But the standard SRRV is easy to get. You just have to put the money up. If you're retired American military and have a pension, you put I think it's $1,500. Because I don't have an SRRV, I can't be exact about it, but you put, I think it's $1,500 in a SRRV bank account that you can't take out without losing your SRRV, and you get it. It's a quick and easy NBI, National Bureau of Investigation background check. You get fingerprinted photos, and they'll run supposedly they run a U.S. background check as well. But I don't know. If you aren't retired military, there are a couple of other types of SRRVs that you can get. And those, James is listing it off, and as well as Bjorn. I'll get to those in just a minute. I have a friend, I think it's either 10 or 20,000 in the bank that they had to put up because they're not retired military, and they have to have a pension equal to X number of dollars a month. So I can't remember whether it was $1,500 or $2,000 a month, or maybe it was even $1,000. I can't remember. Again, I'm a 13A visa. I don't have an SRRV. So let's, Bjorn goes, he's been around here since 78. And he says he's 67 times and living there in Santol for 2 years. Wow. Back in the day, they sent letters. Well, it's kind of hard to get a tradition started with just sending letters. That's for sure. One time a month when they got money. James is right. $1,000 phone bills for collect phone calls. I can't imagine what that would be like at all. Mike near retirement would wintering in the Phil's a stupid idea instead of Florida. No, it's not. It's not a stupid idea. And it depends on what you want and what you feel like. Dan's a retired, medically retired from the United States Marine Corps. You'll do fine. No, it's not James, it's not a stupid idea. If all I was going to do was winter in the Philippines, then I would just come in, get a, 3-month visa. I wouldn't go through all the SRRV or any of that stuff. Just get a couple visas, all right? And pick a place where you want to be. That's what I would do. Why not? And if you know what? It doesn't hurt to try it. Why don't you just try it? Because then, it's better to say I tried it and I didn't like it then I wonder what it would have been like if I had tried it. Okay? Set yourself a budget, do a little research, rent a place, rent a couple of places if you're just going to travel around. Yeah, absolutely. At least try. There's no harm in that whatsoever. But getting back to the SRV, they're very easy to get. As long as you have a clean criminal background check, you can get one. Not a problem at all. So that should be a pretty reasonable situation. And you know what? Bjorn is right. The Philippines is not for everybody. You have to learn a lot of patience and a lot of understanding. And this gets back to the girlfriend myth, boyfriend myth. Their way of life is culturally different, more than likely, than where you come from. Their way of life is culturally different, and their expectations have been inflated by the internet and everybody around it. There's so many lies and so many myths on the internet in the Philippines that these people don't even know what to believe in their own country, much less people outside the country believe in the Philippines. So it's not for everybody. You know, if you, especially the province is for sure not for everybody. You've got to have a sense of adventure and a willingness to step down, I guess would be the best word. Not step down. You've got to have a sense of adventure and a willingness to learn to live the way they live if you're going to live in the province. You can't implement a full-scale Western lifestyle, and why should you? You know, you're coming to the Philippines. You shouldn't have a full Western lifestyle. Should you enjoy the perks of being a Westerner and living like that on occasion? You bet. But I've slept on the floor before. You know, I've slept without air conditioning before. The Philippines is not for everybody, and you have to be able to adapt or be prepared to adapt. Don't go to the province unless you're prepared for the province. Do some research on where you're going. Do some research. Trust me, if you can't find that city on Google, odds are finding a hotel room with air conditioning, not going to happen. It may not even be a hotel. James, thank you so much. You have a great day. I hope everything goes well for you. Yeah, we've just been rambling around this today. That's all there is to it. I'm drinking my coffee. You can't see it, but off screen, I have a coffee pot. I just keep filling my cup up. Sooner or later, I've got my daughter will be calling from the U.S. She calls me almost every day, texts me on the days that she doesn't call. Yeah, brownouts, bad. You know what? I didn't even mention brownouts because that's just so par for the course. It's not an unexpected thing. It's not an unusual thing for me anymore. Okay? The brownouts are not uncommon at all. But if you're not used to not having electricity, for instance, if you don't have a power bank to keep your phone charged when there's a brownout, if your phone doesn't have a hotspot for you to be able to hook up your laptop to, if you can't live without the internet because even if you have a fully charged phone, there's no service. These are things you're going to have to deal with. Okay, you're going to absolutely have to deal with these things. You're going to deal with the fact that there's no McDonald's, there's no Burger King, there's no Jollibee, there's no Kentucky Fried Chicken, there's no Pizza Hut. Okay? In the province where my wife lives, they live on tilapia, rice, chicken, and pork. And chicken and pork are both treats, special treats. Generally, if it doesn't come from the lake, they've gone out of their way to buy it. So, it is what it is. Look, guys, I've had a great time. I really appreciate everybody being here. Please, if you've not subscribed, please subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Hit that thumbs up. Really, the thumbs up helps push the algorithm for us on YouTube. And as usual, we hope you have a great, safe day. Have a great day. Thanks. Bye.